Hi, it's Graham Wilson here and welcome to day 6 of our personal leadership challenge. I'm really excited today to be able to talk about probably a word that's probably the most misunderstood word in the whole of organizational theory and the way that organizations operate is the word strategy. So we're going to explore strategy but also planning as well. When I ask many leaders around, tell me what your business strategy actually is. Quite often what I do is I get a set of numbers, and obviously they're the outputs that they're trying to achieve, but they don't really talk naturally about the strategy. So I want to demystify what I believe strategy is and talk about how you can start to use it, not just at an organizational level, but also at a team level and also at a personal level. So everything I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to talk about it from an organizational point of view, everything I talk about can be actually broken down and used at different levels, right down to yourself individually. So, what's your personal strategy to live a wonderful life? What's your purpose and what's your vision and where do you want to get to in a few years' time? All those sort of key things are really relevant. And what I'm going to share with you is a pathway, a way of thinking to be able to start to really understand what strategy really is and then start to apply that in many aspects of our lives, from our personal lives to our teams, to our functions, to our businesses. So, first of all, let me think about the key elements that we have to have in place to be able to be successful as an organization. I think the first thing I would say really for me is that you need to really understand what is the problem you're actually solving as an organization. What is the problem or the benefits you're trying to achieve, and understanding what those two things are really important. So what is it that we add value to? So the first things that you need to be really clear about, and part of leadership, I think, is to be able to join the dots. And many organizations start to lose the plot and get very tactical and very operational and forget the bigger picture. So what's the actual problem that we're actually solving? What are the benefits that we're actually giving society, our customers, and what value do we really add in terms of our organization? Once we know what they are, of course, then the key thing then is that's probably then translated into what we call our purpose statement or our promise. And the idea about those two things, it really gives us the why, don't they? They're the clear direction about everything we do. Once that's in place, then we need to start to think about, well, what's our value proposition? How are we going to position ourselves? Are we going to compete in a crowded marketplace, or are we going to start using things like blue ocean thinking and blue ocean strategy and start to innovate and start to create an offer or value in an area that no one else is competing at the moment? And that's a big decision. It's very difficult, isn't it, to be the best in your marketplace and to compete against many organizations. And the danger of that, of course, is you become number one in the marketplace and then you become a little bit lazy, a little less agile than you should do, and then suddenly someone disrupts the marketplace and starts to do something completely different. And we've seen that a lot, haven't we, in retail, with the online presence. And we have a number of clients now who are virtually completely online and competing against some of the big boys and some of the big organizations out there, and really doing really well in terms of their success, because they're really clear and focused on what their strategy is, and then they execute quickly around that strategy and they get clarity in the organization around that strategy. So some key things there. So let me just summarize that. Understand what the problem is that you're solving. Understand what the benefits are you're giving to your customers, whether that be commercial customers or whether that's society, or it doesn't really matter whether you're a public organization or a private organization or a commercial organization. It's all the same thing, really. It's about what value do we add. So once we're clear about that, then we can start to think about what's our value proposition and what's our promise to our customers. And then we can then start to think and define what we think our purpose is. So in Success Factory, our training organization, we're not really a training organization. We're here to awaken possibility in leaders to deliver extraordinary results. And you've heard me say that a few times over the last few modules. And I think that's really important because that defines us as an organization. So awakening possibility in leaders to deliver extraordinary results whilst living a wonderful life. So that's the value we're adding to our customers, and that's the actual value we're adding to our team, because we are a lifestyle business, and it's really important to make sure that we are living the lives that we want to live. If I'm let's say a DIY company, then I'm not really sort of selling kitchens or bathrooms. What I'm doing is really helping people to create homes that they're really proud of, and I think that's the impact we're actually having. So being clear about the difference you're making is really, really important. whether that's to patient lives. You think about the NHS and the organisation that they're really sort of making a difference to patient lives right at the moment. That's a clear purpose and a clear offering and a clear service that they're providing. Once we understand that, then the next thing we need to think about really is, before we get to strategy, we're not there yet. And when we talk about strategy, as I said before, people give me numbers. They won't give me the actual strategy, but they won't even give me their purpose, and won't even give me the next thing, which is important, is what's our vision. And the vision is an aspiration, and your vision is over here. And how do we want the world to be when we're successful? It's really hard to go a long way into the future in this case, but certainly 2 to 3, maybe 5 maximum years. You can start to think about, well, if we do everything we said in terms of our promise and our purpose, then what will the world be like in the future? So if you're doing this from a personal point of view and creating your own personal development strategy, then it'll be around, so where am I now and where do I want to be in the future? What will my life look like? What will a wonderful life be like for me in the future? And of course, once you're clear about that and you can articulate that and tell a story around that, that's what really inspires people to come and work for you and support you and enable you. So being able to articulate your vision is really, really important. And that's not just about numbers and size, that's about the impact you have and how what you do is going to change the world and change society, and think about how much value you add and what will be different in the future when you're achieving great success. So we've got our purpose, we've got our promise, we've got our value proposition, and we've got our vision. Now, when you think about organizations, I always draw a situation of, and ask people to say, well, where is your organization now? And at the moment, your organization is here and it's delivering this set of results. And let's, for argument's sake, let's just say they are things like income or turnover. There might be EBITDA or profit. It might be around your engagement of your people, and it might be around the net promoter score that you have from your customers. And all those sort of measures are key things. And what this is saying really is that this is where we are now, and we have a vision, a future state over here where we want to get into the future. And that future is the description organization that's going to deliver this vision over here. And this, of course, will mean, typically in commercial terms, it'll be more income, more profit, better customer feedback, more engaged staff, better processes, better brand recognition, all those sort of key things that we measure. And that will give us an indication of future state. Now, this is where it really gets really interesting, because we now need to sort of decide on what's our plan, if you like, what's our plan of getting across from where we are now to the future state. And that's really important, because if we don't do anything, if we stay as we are, so what we have is a business that's configured like this at the moment, and what we're saying is, if we're like that now and we're delivering those results, we need to reconfigure our offer, reconfigure our business, and take it on a journey over a period of time that eventually we've changed it and we're now in a state where we can deliver these future goals and aspirations, which will then deliver our vision whilst living our purpose. And I think that's a really important concept to get across, because what we're doing here, for example, in terms of value propositions, and there's loads of examples like business modeling, Canvas, there's the value proposition element of that, or we might actually take some of these older models and look at things like product leadership, operational excellence, and customer intimacy, and decide what our brand portfolio is. So if I'm someone like Apple or Virgin or Samsung, whatever, I probably want to be a product leader, because we're innovating, aren't we? We're making our existing products obsolete by innovating and being a product leader. We obviously want to run our business in an effective way, but that's not our promise, not our expertise, and we want to understand our customers. So our value proposition would probably look something like that. If you think about the airline industry, which is obviously under immense pressure at the moment, and you look at, say, someone like Ryanair. So Ryanair would be what we call a price minimizer, and someone like, let's say, Amazon or EasyJet were a price simplifier, so they make it easier for you to buy from. So they'd have a massive effort on here, probably a little bit less on the customer intimacy, and they're not innovating in terms of new planes and new aircrafts and new ways of doing things. So I think that's really important. So we're clear about what our value proposition actually is. And we know how we're going to compete and whether we're going to create new markets or we're going to compete in a congested market. And we know where we are now and we know where we want to get in the future. What we now need to do is create our plan. And I think that's where the word strategy comes in. So it's a combination really of our purpose and our promise, knowing what value we're adding to the marketplace, understanding how we're going to compete or how we're going to create a new market, understand where we want to get to, and then work out the steps that we need to do to change where we are now to reconfigure our business into a way that creates our future state. And this is what I call the change plan. So under here, we need to identify all the things we need to work on to be more effective. And this would typically be your change portfolio or your strategic themes or your pillars or whatever you want to call it in terms of your strategy. And these are the things that we know we need to improve or change or do differently to be able to get to our future state over here. And then, of course, we need to translate that into a plan that we can actually operate. And I particularly like the one-page plans called an OGSM. You can see an example on the screen now where it's quite complicated. You've probably seen something like this before, where it's taken all these elements in terms of our purpose, our value proposition, our vision, and it's given us a tactical plan to turn our strategy into something that we can actually execute. And you can see on there's a whole list of what we call change initiatives. And these are the things that we're doing to be able to really help our organization to grow, to be able to operate our business in a more effective way, and also to be able to make sure we have the right people in the right place at the right time with the right capability in place. So for me, when I'm looking at strategies, I think it's really important that it has a story behind it. So people can articulate the purpose, the value they add, the difference they want to make. They can articulate where they want to get to and the impact of the organization is going to have on society in terms of their vision and the difference it's going to make. And then they can articulate their value proposition, and then they can start to articulate all the things they're going to focus on. And a lot of organizations now will have a long-term framework of where they want to get to. So, for example, moving, say, from a value operator to a healthcare business, for example, there's a long-term framework in place, and that will be then chunked down into a number of steps in order to get to where you want to get to. But the key, from a strategy point of view, is to review what you've learned from the past, understand your strengths, understand the marketplace, understand what value you add, and then start to think about the context you're in now, where are we now, and then to start to open up to this vision and start to plan where you want to get to in the future. And as I said before, this is saying whether it's a global organization or whether it's actually a single person thinking about, well, I'm here now, I don't want to stay here. I want to change the way I do. This is a wonderful life for me in terms of my vision, and I want to get from here to here. What are the things I now need to do in terms of learning or changing in my life in order to change my habits in order to get what I want to get to? So these things really are, in terms of our programs and projects, are the things that we're going to run over a period of time that will add value and change things inside here. So, for example, if I wanted to be fitter and healthier in my life, for example, and that's part of my vision to have more energy, then I might want to have one of my pillars here, one of my areas would be around looking at vitality, looking at nutrition, looking at my diet, looking at my fitness rate routine, and start to turn those sort of things into a habit. It might be I need to go and find out what good people do and great people do so I can start to learn from there. And I start to create a plan in order to get there. And the exciting thing in today's world is these plans, of course, are changing regularly, and it's really important that we create the team that will review this regularly. So, certainly I see a lot of organizations now are actually reviewing strategy, in 90-day sprints. So this is where we want to get to, let's say, by the end of the year, and let's break it down into quarters, and let's make sure that we're reviewing our change plan on a regular 90-day process to make sure that what we're asking people to do is delivering it. And of course, that's been escalated, hasn't it, right now in terms of the situation we're in with the virus that's spreading around the world and trying to kill it off. And that's really sort of given us a big push, really, a big kick to say, let's stop and think about what is our strategy going forward? How do we make sure we de-risk what we do? How do we make sure we survive? And probably if I'm thinking about short-term survival now is we're probably thinking about cash, aren't we? So liquidity is probably a big thing for many organizations. Yeah, how do you make sure we got enough cash to be able to keep the business going? And how do we make sure we engage our staff? How do we make sure that we keep the great staff on board? And when it's time to go again, we're ready, we're repositioned, and we're fired up and we're ready to go. So it's a bit like in the military where you've got your R&R and you're recovering and you're training again, ready to go again in the future. And I think that's really important. So to summarize that really is the key things that I would recommend you think about in terms of your organizational, your team or your personal strategy is, what's my purpose? What value do I add? What difference am I making? What problems do I solve? What benefits do I give people? So for me, our vision in Success Factory is to really change the way that organizations are being led. So our vision, our long-term vision is to actually see a difference in terms of how leaders are leading. And that's a very clear thing for us to focus on. We know what our purpose is, to awaken possibility. We know what our vision is, and now we have to put plans in place to be able to deliver the education and training and development that's going to actually get people to think in a different way and start to change their behaviors and habits and lead organizations in a completely different way based on the context we're in. And right now we're having to readdress the challenge we have and now working virtually. So hence me doing a lot more of this virtual work and online work, and we're going to take our business online as well as doing the face-to-face stuff, because I think that'll come back eventually. But in the meantime, it's around how do we upskill ourselves, how do we get our staff ready to really move forward and get their skills up, and really use this time to stop and reflect and actually create a really great winning strategy and an agile strategy going forward. So I hope that helps in terms of what I'm talking about, and I've gone through that very, very quickly, but I'm hoping they've demystified this whole thing around strategy. It's really quite simple, really is. We know what we want to deliver, we know where we are now, we know where we want to get to, how we are going to get there. What's the strategy, what's the plan that's going to be the easiest route to get from A to B? What do we need to change? What do we need to develop? What do we need to focus? And when I'm looking at organizational strategies, by the way, there's three questions that I always look for. Number one is this strategy telling me how they're going to grow their business? The second part is, does the strategy tell me how they're going to operate their business in a more efficient and effective way? And the third thing, of course, is around, are they, and it's probably the most important bit, is how are they going to deliver their capability in their people? How do they get the right people playing to their strengths, playing to the position, and operating in the most effective way to be able to drive the strategy forward? And probably the fourth thing I would say that combines this, and when we look at a future module around systems thinking, is what's the culture you want to create? Because we just talked about strategy at the moment. We need to think about, obviously, culture as well. So the culture will combine with our strategy in order to create the right environment for us to actually deliver what we're trying to do. So there's my thoughts around strategy. On the website, I'm going to share with you a document, the wisdom of a one-page strategy. You've seen examples. I'll also give you a white paper. Think about it in terms of what's your one-page plan personally. But for example, if I want to improve and get to a point where I'm an outstanding leader, where am I now? Where do I want to get to? What have I learned from the past? What's happening right now? And what do I need to do now in the future to get to where I want to get to? So there are these sort of processes that can happen at all different levels. And it's really important to start thinking in a more strategic way, because I find a lot of leaders will work here at an operational level, a tactical level, and spend not enough time really articulating what this is. And in a big organization, it's been really clear about what this is so people can get behind it and actually really drive the business forward in a very agile way. Because this is very fluid. This is not set in stone. It's not an old sort of program office sort of thing. This is around getting stuff done quickly. Managing that flock of projects and making sure that they're done in an effective way, and we're not slowed down by old world bureaucracy and getting things signed off and documentation everywhere. It's about being agile, being fast, and using the right project type. Later on, I'll talk about Change Pro and share with you my thoughts and ideas about how we really make this change happen really fast, really easily, and more effectively than we have done ever before. So I hope you found the strategy module really useful. I know we've gone through that very, very quickly. I could spend days talking about value propositions. I could spend days talking about blue ocean thinking, but I just wanted to, on this video, really give you an overview and give you some thoughts and get you thinking about what strategy is from a simplistic term. How do I get from where I am now to that future state? What's my plan to get there? And particularly now, what are our steps we're going to take in order to get to where we want to get to? So let me know how you get on. Share your thoughts and ideas. It's been really great actually getting feedback from lots of people around the book, my book, Leadership Laid Bare. A lot of you actually bought the book recently, maybe from watching the videos I've had previously and getting some good insights from that. So it's great to hear that. And keep going, keep pushing, keep driving, and start thinking about what we can actually do to be really successful.